Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
That because light itself cannot travel faster than the attractive force of the gravity in these singularities, that it's also impossible for information to be transmitted from any discrete particle that enters the singularity to any other point in the universe. And this is what they call the event horizon of a black hole. So basically what happens is, if you throw a paper airplane at a black hole and you want to know what happens to it, at a certain distance from the black hole, allegedly, it passes the event horizon such that space-time itself is warped enough that the warpage of space-time increases faster than the fixed speed of light. And if you think I'm making this up, you can go to PBS Space-Time, popular YouTube channel. You can go to Veritasium. They actually recently did a video on this. Basically, all the mainstream YouTube sites have videos on the subject. It's called an event horizon. And so basically, I used to watch all these videos, and then I realized, are these people just in the same category as people who make up weird side stories of Star Wars myths? Is this just Star Trek fan fiction type of thinking?
Keep the rhetoric going.
That guy Captain
Yeah, it
Kirk,
is. It totally is.
Bill Shatner was once asked that question. So he was asked, what's the difference between science fiction and science? And he basically answered, there is no difference. Now, obviously, he's not talking about actual science, the establishment of the cause of an effect you observe in nature. He's talking about the science that you're talking about when they just describe a story about an event horizon. That's just the same as science fiction.
That's what I was just going to say. He's talking about the bull crap that you're talking about.
Well, I guess what I'm really trying to describe is where my personal limit was as far as inane stories that I would be logically forced to repeat if I believed in the initial axioms of the original canon, so to speak. Because that's the thing. When you're talking about multiverse, string theory, all these crazy things, they are logically and mathematically consistent with the basic axioms. And I guess what a lot of Globers fail to recognize when they come into the show is that the axioms are in contention.
So I was going to say, it sounds like multi-universe and stuff just can't be tested, can't be, cause and effect and all that. You just wander off into some illusion.
None of it is science.
Good morning.
Hey,
All right.
10th. How you doing?
Good, good. It sounds like the caller caught up with the BS and realized it was BS.
You posted
No, I knew it
something
was BS
interesting.
all along. I was just trying to like describe, my journey through the BS to here, I guess.
No, that's what you made clear to me, is that once critical thinking applied to the BS, which maybe at the beginning the antennas weren't raised up to
It's like
question.
when I used to watch, documentaries about the universe, and it's just like, man, it's like a lot of CGI in this, and then now I know, it's like, yeah, they did use so much CGI in that.
It's all CGI. There's nothing real that they show. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, Neil, I did post something for Nathan to show, and I got the link and a few slides from it.
Can we do it in the live show?
Yeah, you can do it.
I'm a bit behind. My mic didn't work, so I had to figure out why, and it took me about half an hour.
Yeah, no problem. No, but the caller is right. I mean, I feel like he's describing me as a kid in school when I challenged the teacher. It wasn't multi-universe or string theory I challenged him on. It was Earth and evolution. I said, that doesn't match my reality. I don't accept that. Something's wrong here. And that's when he said, well, I don't even believe it, but I got to teach it. Okay.
Listen, you get this string theory stuff, then a movie like Spider-Man comes out where all three Spider-Mans meet up, and all of these things are proven because it says it in the movie.
Yeah, it's the other way around. So they predictively program you with the movie. So all of this is already in existence, and we only know that because we're on the fringes of looking at this stuff. But we're all aware of these multiverse theory, string theory, none of which are scientific theories. But we're aware of them. Well, the general public aren't necessarily aware of them. So they need to be tentatively made aware of them in their fiction, like Spider-Man. So they'll introduce some multiverse ideas so that people can conceptualize them, so that when their quote-unquote scientists tell them that that's the world they're actually living in, it's easily digestible. Likewise, telling people that they live on a sphere is much more easy to digest and comprehend if you see Superman flying around it at the cinema.
That's exactly what I meant, how you said it.
Well, since they have no evidence for the sphere because of our housekeeping questions, they've turned to Hollywood to help them out. What do you expect?
Well, I actually noted this to my wife. I think that's going to be the next paradigm. They've already got a flat universe, so why not have a flat multiverse? And then when the world is described within the flat multiverse, there'll be no need to disclaim about the transposition from sphere to flat. They'll just describe it more and more flat in terms of out to in, from the vast edges of the multiverse into our flat plane that we measure and dwell atop. Will just be a transition that will slowly happen. So I'm thinking that more and more because of things like, as you raised it, Spider-Man, Neil. You're like, okay, so we know what the fringe nonsense has come from, quantum mechanics, and it's all got the same terminology next to it, theory this and theory that. Right, we know it isn't, don't we? But we can already see that permeating its way into mainstream society. So that is, in my opinion, the next paradigm. That's how it will play out. But you've got to deal with some of the old, and it's very old now at 107 years with gravity, stuff that has sort of hung around like an old fart stinking up the place. Well, that's got to be wafted out at some point, and I think we're part of that.
Whole farts stink too.
No, that's a gas. That's a gas. It goes in every direction. It doesn't hang around.
So somebody opened the window.
Yeah, but you see in that Spider-Man movie, that amazing Spider-Man guy goes through them all and says it's all true. See, you got to listen to the words.
So does Tobey Maguire
says-
stumble
he says
in
what?
like some old Irish drunk? What's the score with the original modern Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire? I've not seen it, but I know he's he sort of collapsed into drinking and drugs and debauchery. Just like, did he stumble onto set? Ah, fuckers, I'll fly fucking webs at you, fucking bastard.
I'm the real Spider-Man. Get the hell out of here.
I'm not gonna lie, as a bit of a comic book geek, I was hyped to see all three Spider-Men up there. at the same time, especially the one I grew up with. It
So
was
was
kind of
I.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
but
the go with Venom at the end? That didn't even make any sense. Chocolate, you're a fan, aren't you? What's the go with Venom at the end?
Venom's a Spider-Man, technically speaking, isn't he?
But he didn't know who
Yeah.
the Spider-Man was. That was the whole. I'm trying not to give it away.
Yeah,
But why was Venom at the end?
They've kind of changed they're changing it a little bit. They obviously didn't go because the Venom story, if you saw the Venom movie, that's obviously not connected to the Spider-Man story. Because originally if you read the comics, originally Spider-Man had the symbiote, right? We all know that if you know Venom and you know Spider-Man. But Venom in the movie apparently got the symbiote without going through that whole Spider-Man transition. So
No, he does. He just does it in the Tobey Maguire films. So in the Tobey Maguire films, the symbiote
Correct.
lands from space, of course, and
Well,
attaches himself to the Spider-Man suit. So therefore, you have Black Spider-Man, and Black Spider-Man is just the same Spider-Man but in a black suit because he's basically Venom.
yeah, I get that. What I'm saying is, like, with the newer Venom movie, right? I mean, now, since they've pretty much mixed all the multiverses now, it's like they can go anywhere with the story. So in a way, they can kind of reset it in some slight way, but not really, because the guy, Eddie Brock's already Venom. So I don't know how they're going to do that. But
Yeah, but at the
Is
end
it-
of this movie, wasn't there a Venom scene at the very end?
believe so, yeah. Honestly, I don't really even remember it too much.
Yeah, there was a Venom scene.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
in
that's what I was referring to.
It doesn't matter in a
Can I ask you a
multiverse
question?
storyline. It doesn't make any difference. So the fact that the Venom that's been introduced in the current canon for his own separate movies doesn't match up with the multiverse with the multi-different Spider-Mans. Who cares? It doesn't matter. If the current Spider-Man hasn't had Venom introduced yet, so what? I'll just introduce him later down the line when the old Venom movies are long forgotten. The current Venom movies.
What I was referring to
Hey,
was
hold on a second. Is there a really is level at this with this whole Spider-Man thing?
Yeah, that's what we're
No,
talking
we're
about.
talking Hollywood.
So yes, we're talking
Of
about the
course.
predictive programming aspect. So when you talk about the really is level, what is the really is level to your average Joe normie? Well, it's world as a sphere because he sees it at the cinema. Star Wars, Superman, whatever it is that's presenting him with that world. Well, that is, in the mind's eye of average normie, their world. Well, their world is changing currently, and we're saying the propagation of multiverse into the science fiction realm is a hint at the predictive programming being used to mould, whatever the word is, your worldview in future. So at the really is level, most people think the globe is the really is level. Is it the really is level? That's your main point. No, it isn't, obviously. No, we don't live in a multi-dimensional universe. It's not scientifically validated. It's the same principle as the sphere in that regard. It's got no science behind it. They've just strapped on a load of just so stories to actual science, which is quantum mechanics. That's what they've actually done.
Well,
and they come up with these nonsense
Can
stories.
I note one other thing, which is interesting? I just heard Chocolate saying that he couldn't remember the details of the movie, which, I'm not trying to disparage his memory or anything like that, but doesn't it seem to be quite congruent with the so-called plans of the elite that in introducing multiverse theory and the Mandela effect, you would produce this shortened memory span such that people would be unable to differentiate one set of claims from the next, from one moment to another, whether it be 1 year to another, or 1 month to another, or 1 week to another, such that you could have people that say, nobody's ever claimed that the horizon is geometric Earth curve. Like, that seems to be the point.
Absolutely, yes. You're detailing something that was laid out in 1984 by George Orwell. So yes, in terms of being able to change the narrative on the spot and have the general consensus public just agree that that was how it always was, well, you're saying that they've got an excuse to do it. No, they're just talking about it. So when people describe the Mandela effect inaccurately as things changing, which they don't, it's just poor memory. It's standard practice in media to change narratives, to do complete U-turns. and to just expect the public to swallow it. You know, when they talk about the war with Oceania, right? Oh, weren't we against Oceania? No, they're our allies. They always were. Were they? Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Oh, okay. That's the world we live in. It's just, like I say, they've now given it a label. That's all they've done. Mandela effect,
Well, I agree with
standard
you.
media practice.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is that with the introduction of the multiverse quote-unquote theory, they've now given a pseudo-scientific priestly approval of the concept that it's not merely the case that people in the world lie, which I think you and I agree is the case, but rather that the foundational narratives in which people live don't change, but rather that people literally are transported into alternate universes and alternate multiverse timelines, or however you'd like to put it, such that the information that they previously held was valid in their previous universe, but in this current one is no longer valid because they've literally been transported into a new universe. I mean, this is the basic ontology of the Mandela effect.
Yes, I understand that, and that is precisely what they would like. And it seems that is what is permeating into our world. So, yes, in the short answer, yes, I would agree with you. Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Chocolate Sayin, Mitchell from Australia, the Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
G'day.
Good morning, good evening, welcome. Good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Where would that be?
It's formerly the horizon.
Yeah, but where though?
Wherever horizons are in your life, generally speaking.
As described on screen right now.
No, that's definitely not the case. This is a Muppet Vision orthographic representation of what you would see if you could see the side of your own head when measuring a flat plane to derive the height of a mountain, to go up it, to then claim that the ground that you've measured as flat is actually bent, and derive an R value from a straight line you can't get in atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. This is Al Biruni's method of showing us just how flat the Earth is when he measures the height of the mountain. Orthographic. Definitely don't see horizon in this. Where's the horizon? There isn't one. There's a single point claimed to be the horizon, marked as C. Is that what you mean?
Well, that's what I was wondering. That's what they used to formally claim. was their horizon, wasn't it? The physical point of obstruction of the geometric ball. So
obstruction when depicted in Muppet Vision without any perspective.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Yes.
If you want proof of it, supposedly they have a photograph that was taken from Blackpool by a guy called Kevin Jackson, who's not part of their crew. And supposedly there is a mountain that is gone behind it in the distance. And they got the pixels to prove it. Idiots.
Brian, is that the picture where nothing in the picture is blocked?
Hold on 1 second. Cuddles,
Yeah.
can you pop yourself on mute?
That one.
Fascinating. So the picture where literally nothing is blocked is the picture that proves that things are blocked by Earth curve.
Yeah, that's the exact one. The one where there isn't anything gone behind any horizon. That's the very picture that proves that the horizon is a geometric location that things go behind.
Amazing.
I mean,
What will
checks
science
out.
prove next?
What will science prove? This isn't science. This is a load of idiots claiming mathematics. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that would be Earth curve, formerly known as the horizon.
No, but if you listen to one of the videos you put up over the weekend, you went through with Jose G. Gonzalez, and there's like a mental block where they can't seem to let information get through. That's what I got out of it. Very frustrating.
They just can't get over their horizon, you see?
Let's just ask the question first. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Negative.
Why would we even think that? Because the people who believe we live on a sphere are now presenting horizontal planes to take elevation angles off of. So why would we even think that?
So, although I've never personally done celestial navigation, my sister reminded me of something which I'd forgotten completely about, which was to say that back in the day, maybe 20 years ago, she and her first husband had a couple of boats. And while I wasn't holding the sextant, I was certainly involved in that process taking place whilst out at sea on a boat. So the only reason I realised this is because my sister came over yesterday and I was explaining this to her. I was explaining celestial navigation to her. And she's nodding along a little bit more than I would expect Joe Normie to nod along. And I'm like, GP this. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, how do you know all this? She's like, I had a boat. She actually meant she had several, but, she's talking about at a time. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course she did. Now, her current husband, he's never owned a boat. And he's very much a glober. So while I'm trying to detail this with my sister, who's nodding along and completely understands, and when I say, well, you can't have a curved baseline, and she's like, oh, yeah, of course you can't. You wouldn't get 90 degrees at the GP. And I said, yeah, precisely, Faye. I couldn't quite believe that she was agreeing with me, and not only agreeing, she knew and could detail it back to me before I'd finished, which was astounding. Not that you just don't expect it from your sister when you forget that she had a boat and has held a sextant and learned how to use it so she doesn't get lost at sea, right? So she's detailing back to me and understands implicitly why the map rug in my room is flat. Now, this is infuriating for my brother-in-law because he doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to say, well, surely if it's just bent away a little bit, it could still be used for that. I'm like, but no, a curve isn't going to give you an angle. It's not going to give you 90 degrees. It's not, I'm correcting him, but he's getting more and more angry with me. And my sister's sort of trying to calm her husband down. Look, don't worry about it. Well, she's having to just nod along and go, yeah, I totally understand that it's got to be flat. It wouldn't work otherwise. You couldn't get a triangle. You wouldn't get 90 at the GP. You're like, yeah, she's had to do this so she doesn't get lost at sea and die. So while I haven't held a sextant, I've certainly been on that boat. So all the people are like, you've never done this. Well, I might not have held a sextant, but I've certainly been in a situation where it had to be used. Just wasn't by me, it was by my sister. So he didn't die. And she understood implicitly, and I can tell you this firsthand, that it needed to be and was flat. Because that's how it works. Suck it up, fundies.
Exactly, that's how it works. And she used it. She knew how to use it. That's why it works.
You know, a boat was
Well,
clear.
isn't that-
The one that she bought two. One was new and the other one wasn't. the second boat she got to name. Do you know what she called it? She called it WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for "What you see is what you get." How appropriate.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, this should go a long ways in describing the ballers or anti-flat earthers who argue the citations and the references in the books that we've cited. They've never held a sextant. They don't know how to do it.
Well,
But when we cite people who do it, they agree with your sister. They agree. I mean, we're just saying what celestial navigation requires. They're trying to make us sound like we're making this stuff up.
That's correct.
I thought that Fight the Tight Shirt, Craig, was a subject matter expert from his time in the Navy. Still not seen him explaining how he does it with a curved baseline.
can't.
I've got a reference to that. I've got a claim where he's explaining it. I put it in Master B, Nathan, if you want to play that to answer Adam's question.
Oh, it's audio.
The subject matter expert.
Oh, if it's audio, then most definitely. Yeah. I'll stick that on.
It's video, so maybe not put the video on, but you can hear him saying it.
Is there a particular timestamp, or can I just hit play?
No, just hit play.
But from scratch, a flat Earth is required, Craig, to get an elevation.
No, it's absolutely 100% not required. I don't know
Oh,
why
it's
you.
not?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
So a sextant requires 90 degrees from the star to the GP to you.
No, it does not.
And then,
Absolutely 100% not.
how do you figure?
Because that's not how you do celestial navigation.
That's exactly how you do celestial navigation, Craig.
No,
So to get that,
but you don't
your
have
elevation
90
angle.
degrees to the GP. You simply measure the angle between the celestial object and the horizon. Then you
what
use that to
consists of-
find the GP.
Okay, and what consists of an angle, Craig?
An angle? What consists of an angle?
Correct.
The angular separation between 2 points, measured in
No,
degrees
not
or
2 points.
radians or whatever you
Two
want.
straight lines. 2 straight lines, not 2 points.
Then it doesn't have to be straight lines. You can measure angles to curves quite easily.
Craig, come on now. Now that's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it's really not. Measuring angles to a curve is actually integral to building suspension bridges.
Sorry, just got to interrupt just for 1 second. Angles, which is yet to define, to a curve. Yeah, okay. Angles to a curve is still 2 straight lines meeting a curve, though, isn't it? So he hasn't defined curve, and he's now mixing up these 2 different things when he hasn't defined, as the other guy, I don't know who it is, has correctly defined, that it's 2 straight lines. So now Craig's describing 2 straight lines meeting a curve.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Nathan. It was bugging me because, of course, you can draw a straight line to a curve. What you can't do is get an angle with curved lines. That's
From a curve.
Yeah.
A straight line meeting a curve. On screen now we have 90 degrees at the GP of a star. This is taken from a celestial navigation manual. It's detailing how you draw an angle from the ground baseline utilising the horizon with 90 degrees below the star. Greg's just denied that even happens. He's just denied how celestial navigation works. The guy on the panel shouldn't be arguing with Craig. He should be pointing out that Craig should be arguing with somebody who's devised or developed or utilises celestial navigation, as is, because he says it doesn't work that way. I'll just play the rest of the clip.
Craig,
And
you need
the formula here that I can show you, T equals W over 2 cos theta, is actually a formula for measuring an angle to a curved surface, in particular this curved surface of the suspension cables of a suspension bridge. Okay,
I think that's it. Go ahead.
Can I interject here briefly?
Yeah, okay. Whoever said that objection, feel free.
It's not an objection. Well, it's an objection to Craig. He claimed at the beginning of the clip that you could conjure up an angular relation between 2 points. And I posit that that's fundamentally impossible. You need 3 points for any angle.
Yeah, good point.
And so it strikes me as, just the height of Glober illogic that you could just assume that 2 points give you an angle. 2 points give you a line segment. You need 3 points for an angle. So Craig, much to Quantum Eraser's credit, is the type of person who doesn't even know what an angle is, let alone a triangle, let alone a circle. So it's like these guys are just adrift.
Well, he
Pun
might very
intended.
well know, right? But again, remember, all they have are tactics. So what they have to do is either change the definitions of the words they're using, or try to Jedi mind trick their audience into they absolutely know what's going on because all they have are tactics.
Exactly, because he said it
as
with
soon as you
authority.
say the word angle, you're talking about two straight lines. There's no way around it.
Well, and I'd like to build on that.
Hold on, just one at a time. I heard Adam
Not
next.
right.
Go ahead, Adam.
I would say they're well trained. When you hear that, you see, because the statement he makes to a really good point that's being put to him is a statement of truth, and it sounds intelligent. It doesn't sound like he's lying because he's not lying. Because he makes a statement, you can take an angle to a curve, which is totally correct. You see, and that's what they do. There's the bait and switch there, yeah, where instead of, like I said, creating angles with curves, which he can't do, which was the point that's being made, he reverses it and talks about getting tangents to a curve and making angles there. And that's kind of what they do. And that'd go on for 10 minutes with him arguing and then finally going, oh, sorry, yeah, no, you can't. You know what I mean? It exemplifies, number one, the tactics they use, but I think fundamentally that was their so-called subject matter expert that denied you creating a 90. So nice destruction clip, that, Mitchell.
It sounds totally not relevant to the degrees of a circle off of a plane, right? Like an angle off of a curve. Well, no one's concerned about that in this case. It's the degrees that are being measured off of a flat plane, like with a protractor, because you're trying to figure out where you are.
That's correct.
Like I don't understand. That's that Oakley dope. That's why he said angle to the curve as opposed to angle off a curved line, right? Just hoping that somebody won't actually pick that up.
Well, the guy didn't pick it up because he asked the wrong question. So when he asked him to define what an angle was, he phrased it in such a way that Craig took that as an opportunity to bandy words with him because he didn't ask the question in such a specific way. That's all that happened. That's why you heard the hesitation from Craig. And he even repeated how the guy had phrased it, and the guy just confirmed, yes, I am going to stick with that phrasing.
What happened there is different. Craig wasn't trying to deny an angle as two straight lines. What Craig was trying to deny was the height of void correction. He was staying away from that because that puts the baseline of a right angle onto the surface of Earth. That's what it does. That's the whole point of it. So you have a steady angle. That's the point of doing it from a deck of a boat. You don't have a right angle from the deck of a boat. You have an obtuse. So you make the angle a right angle by doing height of void correction. So he was avoiding that completely. Now, there's something else I want to say about Craig. Was Craig a navigator in the Navy? I don't know if he was a navigator because I never heard him say he would claim he was a navigator. Number two, he was in the Navy. That doesn't mean he was a navigator.
Right.
Number three,
if I understood it, he was in the Navy, but in a submarine.
Yeah,
so
but
that's where you might have that lesson there on sextants. But how often are you cracking out your sextant when you're underwater for 3 months?
Well, but see, the thing about it is, if he wasn't a navigator, he wouldn't have learned how to do, like, whether he was in a submarine or on a ship, if he wasn't a navigator, then he wouldn't have been learning how to use a sextant. That's what a navigator does. So he is not a subject matter expert. Being in the Navy is not good enough to be a subject matter expert. That doesn't
Maybe he was a cook.
I work in construction, but that doesn't make me a subject matter expert on engineering. You know?
We have a video.
Can I ask?
Hang on. We have a video of a guy who was a navigator on a $1 billion Navy ship. I've posted it. Kiwi has posted it. We have still, I'll find a picture of it. And he describes it the way of a 90, opposite of what Craig. So this is ridiculous. There was no citations from Craig. It was just Craig making stuff up.
As I said, it sounded like he had a beef with celestial navigation and the processes that are employed to do it. not with the guy claiming it. It's like, no, celestial navigation is what it is. You don't have to like it. It's utilising a flat baseline to measure an angle to a celestial item that you need to establish a GP to draw a circle, and then another, potentially a third, to find out where the hell you are. And it requires angles and flat planes. That's how it's done. Now, Craig might want to argue with that fact, but that is the fact of the matter. Now, when they deny GPs having 90 degrees below them, they're just denying how celestial navigation works. There's no argument in terms of us saying it works one way and they saying it works another. It is how celestial navigation works. It does work on a flat plane. It does have 90 degrees at the GP of the star. You do have straight lines being used to measure angles. You are establishing your baseline with the horizon. That's flat to get an angle. All those things are statements of fact that you can go and double check by any way you choose to do so. Craig, on the other hand, doesn't like it because it proves the Earth is flat because that's the only way it can function. So he starts fighting against the very method and processes of the navigation method itself. Well, that's not an argument he's having with me. Well, talk to Cruising World or someone who's detailing this, not me, because I don't care.
Well, to be fair, the guy did say that's exactly how you do celestial navigation, to be fair to whoever he was talking to.
Right, but then Craig continued to argue the toss about how it's done. Right, convincing his audience that the guy who's saying it is just wrong. Well, no, he's not wrong, but Craig's more than happy to make his audience believe that the guy who's implicitly telling him, this is just how celestial navigation is done, go look it up. No, it isn't, says Craig. As I said in the middle of his clip, that's him fighting with celestial navigation, not with us. Shout out to Godzilla37, who says, this super chat is to help pay for the damage you must have suffered having to listen to Craig. You are a brave man, Nathan. I don't typically listen to Craig, but on my show, I'm happy to. No worries. Thank you for the super chat.
Shout out to Gord's super chats. He's got the best super chats ever.
And
Shout out to Godzilla.
Let me ask you a question. Didn't he come on here and have an opportunity to explain himself with Micktoons? And what they did was come on with a stupid award show instead of putting his foot down and telling celestial navigation how it's done? No, he didn't do that.
No, but that's irrelevant. I don't care what Craig's come and done. No offence, Neil. The facts are as follows. You require a flat baseline, that's a flat Earth, to measure an elevation angle to any celestial object, to get 90 degrees as its GP, so that you can draw out a circle based on that star's position at what time of day you're at. Is this useful? Yep. It's the reason people can go out on the oceans without getting lost and dying. Yep. The chronometer, the watch, that's the reason you can do this. So that you've got a means of figuring out where the hell things are at a particular time when you look at them. Well, that is all utilising a flat plane. It can't not be because you can't get an angle off a curved surface. What's that, Craig? To a curved surface? No, we're not measuring to a curved surface. We're measuring from a flat baseline. That's how it is done in celestial navigation, Craig. Try and keep up.
This is their argument, and you mentioned, I mean, we started at the beginning, he's claiming to be a subject matter expert. And you mentioned Cruising World. Well, Cruising World isn't a subject matter expert, but the bloke they asked to write the article is a subject matter expert. He describes it as 10th read it out with 90s, not no, as Craig said. So there is a subject matter expert out there, describes it, and therefore his only bone of contention is with the actual methodology of celestial navigation. He's wanting to pick a fight with us and talk about angles to curves and convolute the two arguments, but fundamentally his disagreement isn't with us, it's with the methodology of celestial navigation.
On top of that, Adam, all you got to do is read the manuals, the books on celestial navigation. It says once you have done the corrections to get true altitude, you minus it from 90. What? It's the final step. If you have to get everything right, height of eye correction, so you got a baseline that's straight. If you got to do all that, what's the last thing they say to do? Minus it from 90. Well, what's a 90? It's right there.
Is he the one calling himself a subject matter expert on this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see that's part of the trick, right? Because again, they can't quarrel with this because this is what's happening in real life. So what they have to do is they have to try to get people who won't do like what 10th Man and what all of us are doing and studying this shit, right? Even I mean, I know 10th Man's used sextant, but some of us haven't. But I don't need to actually use a sextant to know the basics of how to use it. And people like Craig, what they're doing is they're trying to get other people who are too lazy to do that or will never have the desire to do that to understand that, oh, this guy is the subject matter expert. So I should just listen to him. So when he says, oh, they don't need a 90, they could just say, nah, we don't need that. So they'll just listen to him as opposed to doing the research themselves and saying, hey, well, you kind of actually do need a 90.
Well, Chocolate, I mean, Nathan's announced he's got a subject matter expert in the family now. Because if you've done it and you've got yourself home using that method, that to me qualifies you as an expert. You can go out there and navigate.
Yeah, I would say so. You've actually used the thing on a boat.
Let me correct you, Chocolate. I have used the sextant in only a particular manner by bringing the sun down to the horizon where I live. I've called a captain of a ship that I know when I used to have a boat. He's trying to arrange an official navigator to give me a one-on-one lesson that I could videotape, which is what I'm waiting for, because then I will be able to say, hey, can I tape this and put it on the YouTube channel as you describe how a sextant works. Out of his own mouth, everything I've cited, everything we've just talked about will come out, just like Nathan's sister. Is the way it's done. We are just showing you the methodology, audience members. Don't be lazy. Go to Google, go to YouTube, type it in, start reading. You'll see it's a 90. There's no way around it.
Craig is not a subject matter expert. That was the whole point of what I was saying. Craig isn't a navigator. He isn't a subject matter expert. Craig worked on a nuclear submarine while in the Navy, supposedly. That's all we know, right? Craig also supposedly has degrees and different things like that. Craig is not a subject matter expert that I'm aware of in basically anything that we argue about. He just claims to be things. That's what Craig does. He claims to be things that he's not.
I can't even hand it to him since his hand isn't where it's supposed to be.
Shout out to Nathan's sister for knowing how to use it, because if she didn't, we might not even be here right now.
Not my mother.
You might have been lost at sea one day.
Yes,
I might have never heard of Nathan Oakley.
Oh, I see, because I was with her on the boat at some point. Okay, fair enough. I'll let that slide.
Yep.
Fine.
But I find it funny that Nathan, that your sister has navigated using celestial navigation at sea, and your wife also had a pilot's license. There's loads of people around you probably aren't even thinking about it. They have all this evidence.
Yeah, mad, nuts. But there you go. You don't give it a second thought. That's why I was so shocked, because obviously, as soon as she said it, I picture myself on the deck of that boat sunbathing. You know, I remember it very vividly. But it's such a long time ago, and the husband at the time died, so it's kind of one of those memories that I've suppressed. So I kind of try and forget about that part of my life because it's very sad. But then when you sat across somebody with an overlapping subject that you just don't realise overlaps, and you're talking to somebody who's literally held a sextant going, right, where's the almanac? You know, that's who I'm talking to. But it just didn't occur to me when I was telling her this. What did occur to me was, why is she nodding along so much? Why is she saying words like GP? why am I not having to dumb this down tenfold like I am with her husband? Well, because she's done it, that's why. She had to study it, train it, and get a qualification in it to be certified to go out safely to sea. So she's done it. She's like, yeah, I'm qualified to do it. I was like, oh, right. Why are you qualified to do this? I had a boat. Oh, yeah, of course you did. I completely forgot.
Well, this might sound totally random, but I'd like to note that if Craig was ever on a submarine, one might assume that submarine had a periscope. And if that periscope was 1 foot above the surface of the water, the farthest it could ever see would be 1.2 miles. And I'd be curious to know if that would be a useful invention.
I'm pretty sure a periscope gets above 1 foot.
I think they hold them at about 6 inches, Nathan.
Really? Is that all they get at? You're joking?
No, they try and keep them at about 6 inches, somewhere like that.
No
That's
way.
what I read.
Is that?
Yeah, and
can someone confirm that? I'm not.
See. Sorry.
I picture a cartoon of a submarine's periscope going up, and I just picture it being significantly above the wave line. You know, you might have a bit of 6 inches seems very low. I mean, I don't know anything about periscopes, but what do I know?
Well, they might bring it up a little bit higher if there's rougher water, but the whole point is they can't let their position be known. So, so they have to make sure that there's no way for light to bounce off it or reflect off it or anything like that, because that's what ships are going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for the periscopes, so they know where the submarine is. But they can see with the periscope 5 or 6 miles. So,
are you just making this up? Who's looking for periscopes?
That's what I read. Yeah.
You're telling me that search and rescue can go out and look for dinghies and people on them in shipwrecks and not find them, but yet there's people out there looking for periscopes. I find that very hard to believe.
Hold on a second. You're questioning Brian and you're coming with Hanna-Barbera cartoons?
Yes, that is my standard here. That's correct.
Well, the whole point of it is that submarine is covert. It's not getting detected or seen. That's the point. So, a naval ship will be looking for, to find anywhere where there could be something like a periscope sticking up out of the water. They have to. So they have to make sure that they stay maybe below a certain radar line, if they're using some kind of a ground wave radar, which may be parallel to the ocean. I can't remember if ground wave radar works parallel to the ocean or just or on the ocean, but I know that there's a reason why they keep it as low as possible, and that is to not be seen, not be detected. And I actually, I could be wrong, maybe Tent could correct me, but I think they may even use the periscope. Can they use the periscope with a sextant? I could be wrong there.
I've mentioned this before on the show. They would have the Mariner sextant when they were on top, when there was no danger. They could use the normal sextant and sight the horizon, go through all the steps. And they also had a bubble sextant feature as well. And there are, I even read, and I'll find it, that the periscopes could be mounted as well. Just like the airplane had the bubble and then the periscope sextant on the airplane, which replaced the bubble that was on the airplane because of aerodynamics. It's the same concept.
There's over 100 people watching. Thank you very much to all of you who've joined us recently. A very warm welcome. And please share the show. The only reason there is over 100 people watching is because there's somebody in the audience who smashed that share button. And there's a good chance that if you've come here because you've clicked on a link that somebody has shared with you. So please share the show. Smash that share button now. Really appreciate it if you have done so already. Also, shout out to Retro Bill. He said, just wondering if Brian could explain, open brackets, as briefly as possible, the significance of the one-way speed of light as it pertains to this argument. Does it pertain to this argument? I don't know. Thank you for the super chat, though, Retro Bill. Really appreciate the support. Please share the show. Go ahead, Brian.
I'll do that. I'll do that in a minute. I leave Tent has something to say, and I have something to say on the submarine. Then I'll do that, Jeff.
Yeah, whether you're on top of a mountain, you're on the seashore, you're on the boat, you're in a submarine, sextant is an angle measuring device. An angle is defined as two straight lines meeting at a common point, creating a vertex. You must minus it from 90 to get your co-altitude. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter which way they use it, whether it's an artificial horizon, which is not the real horizon, and no dip is required, or you use the real horizon and dip is required, height of eye correction, so that you're level baseline with the sea level. It doesn't matter. You must minus it from 90. You can't get a 90 on a curved surface.
Yeah, what I find really funny is the fact if they can use a bubble sextant. See, I know that because I looked into it. A submarine has to travel. It travels horizontally. It doesn't. That's the way it's designed to travel horizontally. And normally submarines are about 30 feet below the sea level to 60 feet. Normally they stay at 30 as much as possible because they don't want to be too deep down. They only want to go down a bit deeper if they have to stay away from being detected or something like that. But normally they stay about 30 feet below the sea level. So if they're able to use a bubble sextant below the sea level, well, if they can use it in that way, using the periscope, if they can use the bubble sextant below the sea level or something in some way like that, that's very interesting. Because
but the bubble, Brian, is an artificial horizon. The pan of Mercury is an artificial horizon. It just gives you a horizontal, which is a flat baseline that you need to get your 90. Whereas the actual horizon, the one that mariners use, because you can't use a bubble sextant or a pan of Mercury with much efficiency at sea with the waves tossing and turning the ship. So you shoot the most stable thing, the actual horizon, and they say, oh, by the way, you got to minus your height of eye, get your eyeballs on the sea so that you can get your 90. So the whole point is there is dip correction with the actual horizon because you have to get that baseline. There is no correction for dip with the artificial horizon, bubble or Mercury, because you already have a baseline that's horizontal.
I know that, but you kind of cut in on what I was saying. What I was trying to get out of it was, did you say that they use the bubble sextant under the water with the use of a periscope?
No, I said I have to find that. They have both. If they were surface, they can use the mariner sextant or the bubble sextant as well. They have both types. And the periscope bubble sextant is outfitted on airplanes. After that curved acrylic bubble was found to be against aerodynamics, they got rid of that. So it's just a very simple fit on the submarine to do the same thing. I'll find it and I'll post it.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would be very interesting. Sorry, Nathan, 1 second. That would be very interesting if they're using the bubble sextant under the water with the use of the periscope. And I'll tell you why. Because that shows an absolute parallel with the surface of water. So they're proving that the water, because they have to hold a 30 degree, they hold normally, as I said, a 30 foot below the water position. So that means their horizontal is going to be a horizontal parallel, 30 foot below the water.
Oh, I see where you're driving at. So what you're saying is, typically, if you're in the air, you're going to be lining up a parallel line with the surface with 90 degrees at the GP. And when we describe it with a bubble sextant, you've got the line meeting that because you've got parallel zeniths. However, this would show that the zenith doesn't only go to the ground, it extends down. So it continues parallel into the ocean. Right, Brian?
Yeah, well, if they use a bubble sextant... Go on, Eli.
No, I say, yeah, and because globe earthers are blisteringly dumb most of the time, like we're making unremarkable statements. And I say that because, well, horizontal has a meaning, right? And if you're level with the horizontal, which is a consequence of things being horizontal, doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're in the basement, whether you're in the attic, whether you're underwater, whether you're underground, whether
you're in a hurricane.
Exactly. Horizontal is horizontal. That's it. And that can only be that if we all share the same relationship to horizontal.
Okay, so what Eli's basically saying is, yeah, duh, obviously, if they run parallel with a horizontal line between them, like a letter H, it doesn't matter if you get to the line that the H is sat on. If they're parallel, they carry on being parallel, and if it's horizontal, it carries on being horizontal. Yeah, duh. Yeah, this isn't complicated. We appreciate that. However, to our opponents, this is groundbreaking stuff, Eli. So, yeah, yes and yes.
Brian.
Yes, Adam.
Just in terms of that last point with the periscope, the measurement's still being taken 6 inches off the surface, so no matter how deep the sub is. Are you just talking about translational distance for the sub?
No, I'm talking about if they can use the periscope and use a bubble sextant under the water, they are first making a parallel with the surface of the water from 30 foot underneath the water. If you understand, they're not making a parallel with the surface like an airplane above the water. They're actually first making a parallel below the water. So they're making a horizontal parallel with the surface of the ocean under the water if they're doing that. Can't be done if the water is curving. You know what I mean? Can't have parallel lines where one curves.
It's hard to conflate into the thing, but the point where the parallel or the plane is still 6 inches above, isn't it? It just...
Yeah, but no, if they're using a bubble section, like if they're using the bubble section with the periscope, then are they first making a horizontal below the water, or are they making two horizontals? Well, one 6 inches above and one 30 foot below.
They're making one horizontal 30 foot below and taking the measurement 30 foot above the plane that they've generated.
Well, that would be the point, right? I mean, if they're using a periscope, they're trying to remain, hidden. So if your submarine's not level with the water, you might have the back or the front sticking out, and that might blow you up a little bit. That might not work too well. So
what that demonstrates quite interestingly is the purpose for height of eye correction. We've got something that we've established our level, and we've moved our measurement 30 foot above it. We do not take any adjustment. There's no adjustment made for height of eye above the level we've created. The only reason we make an adjustment for height of eye is if we're using the horizon, because we know it's out based on our height. But if we've already created that flat plane, it doesn't matter where we stick the measuring instrument in relation to it, as long as it's at 90 degrees to the plane we've created, which I assume the periscope would be.
Yeah, if you're creating a horizontal underneath the water and the water is curving, then your horizontal line is going to, and you're only 30 foot below the water, then after about 9 miles or something, whatever it is, your horizontal is going to break out through that water and be completely useless to you. So the water has to be horizontal and level for this to work.
Washed up a crude diagram while you've been talking about this. Let's stick that up. If I can get to the end of everyone else's. There you go. My version of a submarine at the bottom, the level of the sea, periscope coming up, measuring an elevation angle, and it's parallel with the surface of the sea, and that is parallel with whatever is below the sea, and then you're just making an angle. And because it's done in this manner, obviously you're going to have to use a bubble. You're not going to be using a mariner's sextant because you're under the water, so it's going to have to be compact. And this bubble inside whatever the tool is, regardless if it's working from mirrors down here or actually up in the top of the periscope, it just establishes a horizontal baseline parallel with the ground, or in this case the water, that it's underneath, and then it measures the angle. No dip correction, it's using a bubble. So this line that it's established, horizontal, runs horizontal with the sea level all the way to the GP of the star. Now if this star is 1,000 miles away, well, you've got a parallel line running to get a 90 degree below that star. Doesn't matter that you're 6 inches, 20 feet, 300 feet below the water level, or conversely, 30,000 feet in the air. Once you've established a horizontal, it runs parallel with the ground. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And submarines have to travel horizontal. If you look into how they travel, they have to travel horizontal. That's the way they are. They'll drop in depth or rise in depth, but they'll keep the horizontal as much as possible. But once they get to where they're holding, whatever depth they're holding, they go back to horizontal.
It's the same with. I'm sorry, Brian, but it's the same with the airplanes. They fly longitudinally, meaning the bubble section, you got the vertical bubble and the horizontal bubble in the bubble section in the airplane. So the navigator's telling the pilot, okay, fly straight, longitudinally, as straight as possible so I can keep my bubble level. And they do it for 2 minutes and get the average. It's just going to be the same.
Brian,
yes?
that bit, but surely by the same token, shouldn't a submarine have to nose down?
Yeah, it doesn't do that. It can't. In fact,
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of the arguments that apply to the aeroplanes, they equally apply to the submarines. Shouldn't it nose down? It doesn't matter that you're under the water level, the surface level, right? the curve of the Earth, in terms of the way the sphericity manifests at 8 inches per mile squared, well, it might be marginally less. But it should be moving down to compensate for the fact the ground's falling away from it, right? The ground should fall away as that submarine carries along in a horizontal orientation. It doesn't.
No, they can't. They're not designed that. They're only designed to move horizontally. That's how they're designed. Anyone can look into how
if a gyro is to hold rigidity in space, there is no caveat with gravity, right? I mean, like
what's that?
Well, first of all, what is? I don't even know why. What is it?
Well, it leads me into a question. So, any scientific evidence of gravity follows quite nicely off that, Eli. So, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Get to answer that question, Nathan.
No, I didn't. Well, never mind. Forget it. Go ahead, Brian.
That was your fault.
I was asked in the super chat to answer something about the speed of light and how it pertains to.
Okay.
The one-way speed of light was never measured. No one ever measured the one-way speed of light. There is a thing called C within Einstein's relativity, and he also uses it within his famous E equals m over c squared. Eli, you're off mute.
Sorry.
He also uses it in his famous equation E equals m over c squared. C is a constant, and it's known as Einstein's convention, because it's just a convention that's agreed upon, and that's what Einstein stated, that everyone agrees that c, which is the speed of light, will be equal at all times in all directions and all returns. So for Einstein to make the claims he does about relativity and other things, then the speed of light has to be constant from me to you, Nathan, and you back to me has to be the same exact speed of 671 million miles per hour. That's what it has to be. But the only thing constant is the calculation. That's the only thing that's constant, because they need this to be a constant in the heliocentric world, because they need their stars and suns, whatever else the suns are, stars and their belief, to be massive objects of monstrous distances away. And that gives them parallel light rays, and they use the claim of parallel light rays from stars and from the sun and whatever else within celestial navigation. They use this claim, and it's a heliocentric claim. But for parallel sun rays or light rays from Polaris or anything else to ever exist, besides the fact that on the globe model you would never have a GP position, because you can't, because your light source is so much huger than what it's shining on. There is no GP. But besides that fact, you could only have this huge, massive star or sun at a massive distance giving you parallel light rays if light was a constant. But the ring laser gyro, right, shows that the frequency, the reason it works is because one of the lasers has to travel a slightly longer distance, so it gives a frequency change. So that straight away suggests that their claim of light being a constant is completely not rubbish. You can also divide the speed of light, their two-way speed of light calculation by 16, and you will never ever notice the difference in the real world using radar or anything else. The only thing that will change is the size and distance to their heliocentric celestial objects, which gives them their parallel light rays. The whole thing is just a calculation. There is no one-way speed of light measurement. Nobody ever measured the speed of light, and probably ever will. And that means that their parallel light rays claim that a baby can debunk by looking at the sun not having parallel light rays. And the fact that, worse again, you can see where the rays from the sun finish. So that would be like you can see the distance between the rays of the sun, basically where they finish sometimes on the ocean. So not only are the rays not parallel, but they actually finish. How could something that's much huger and supposedly give us parallel light rays finish? How could you have a finish to the distance they travel, to the width of where the rays are? So the whole thing is convoluted and nonsense. The two-way speed of light is a calculation. That's the only constant in the calculation. There is no proof of a constant speed of light. There is no speed of light. It never happened. Anyone can talk to quantum eraser about it. Anyone can talk to Veritasium about it. He reads out what Einstein said within his video, saying there's no speed of light. There is no parallel light rays. There is no massive sun and stars at ridiculous distances away. None of that is real. You can divide down their theory speed of light and still use it in the real world, and you'd never, ever notice.
Okay, Retro Bill says thank you for your consistency.
All right, Nathan. I posted in Master B an article from a navigator who served on a sub.
Okay. Did you want to go through it?
Well, yeah, you got to tell me when you have it. I'm going to have you scroll down. It's quite a lengthy article.
Okay, I've got it up.
All right, so basically, understanding celestial fundamentals, navigate by stars from beneath the waves is the title here. How bodies rise and set and move through the sky is a warrior skill. A Riverine Warfare School at Camp Lejeune in 2009, et cetera, et cetera. If you scroll down, keep scrolling down until we get, then he quotes the Bible in Book of Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun or under the stars for that matter. It's fascinating to read of celestial navigation being used to fix the position of one of the world's most technically advanced vessels, a nuclear-powered submarine. All right. So then if you keep going down, having formerly served as electronics technician, navigation, ETV on a Los Angeles-class submarine, I dabbled in celestial navigation. Many have tried to revive it, but it's perceived to be too complex without prior training. To bring it back to the submarine force, there would need to be a significant push for this inclusion in the training curriculum. As you know, the Navy's reinstituted sextant at sea use now because of the jamming possibilities and so forth. So the Navy's back on the sextant. You scroll down. Then he says at one point, ships and submarines are not static. They pitch and roll, get pushed off course, and so on. And then if you keep scrolling down to, it says the capability was available back in 1960s when the USS Halibut SSN 587 was on post, overall sea trials. I was navigator. One quiet night, we cruised slowly at periscope depth. I decided to attempt a star fix using the sextant that was built into our number 2 periscope. So there you go, built into the number 2 periscope. The skipper walked into the control and asked what I was doing. When I told him I was having difficulty finding Aldebaran, he took the scope and muttered, Aldebaran, let's see, that is in the constellation of Taurus. It's September, should be about here. Now, Hank Clay was one of the smartest guys I had ever known, and I'm sure I had not been a navigator for many years. He spun the scope in a certain azimuth and elevation and said, yep, it is here. As he walked away, it was now my head that was spinning, but I got the fix. And then he talks about here, as one of the few nuclear-powered attack submarines, SSN navigators, who was disappointed in the early 70s when the periscope sextant was removed from the Type 15 and 8B periscopes. So he's talking about how it needed to go back in, and he finishes the article.
Any comment on how high they go with a periscope? Just out of interest.
Again, from the previous readings I've done, and I posted on a show many moons ago, they can do it when the sub is surface, and they can use a normal Mariner sextant or a bubble, as long as the sea is not tossing and turning. Or they do it through the periscope because they need to stay submerged. So obviously, as Brian says, if the periscope is up and they're in dangerous waters, it's going to create a whitewash effect, and so they're not going to go high there. So they're probably not going to do any readings while they're in dangerous waters. So when it's safe, they probably will just stick it up whatever it is. It really doesn't matter because you got to have a 90.
You know what I found interesting, Temp? I was just reading ahead, and there was a bit that it says the Book of Ecclesiastes, which I thought was odd. So I'll just read it. 1.9 says, nothing is new under the sun or under the stars for that matter. It's fascinating to read that celestial navigation is being used to fix the position of one of the world's most technically advanced vessels, a nuclear-powered submarine. So even the military are confirming where they're at still to this day with celestial navigation. Well, that was interesting that they admit that. So they're confirming all of their technical readings with celestial navigation to make sure it's true, because the best thing to check against is the stars. I like it.
Yeah.
Conversation killer.
No.
I
I just.
Go on, Brian.
No, I was just saying that what it is it causes people to think. That's why people go quiet, and people start thinking. No.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I just want to
That's what I'm
reiterate
thinking.
something. Go on, Eli. You go.
No, because what Adam is elucidating is that, oh, okay, all the satellites and all the GPS and all the stuff that I think because I push buttons and I read computers, and we're seriously using this device that people have used before anyone thought about a globe, and it works with these angles, and I'm sure they have depictions of how that works, and I'm sure it's perplexing to those who have a worldview, and they're probably still trying to figure out how it fits into their worldview. That's why I think that comment was made.
Yeah, very good. Nathan, you want to go to the slides that I posted after Mitchell's link for
I can. I just
Craig
wanted
audio?
to make one humorous aside that this is the second quote I found where they give the equation, and people are asking, it doesn't give it away. Maybe it's a military secret, because I didn't find it quickly, but I've done about 6 or 7 searches now, and a couple of them have come back. Well, to find out how high the periscope would have to go to see beyond the horizon, you need the following formula. You need 1.5 times the square root of the observer's height in feet to give you the distance. Oh, really?
I found the same thing.
Yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that because they can't bring the periscope up. Because I did read, and I spent a bit of time reading and trying to find out. They can't bring the periscope up above, I think it's 6 inches, because they don't want to be detected. And that's the problem. They can be detected by radar, I think, once they move up a certain height. Because the ground wave radar, I think it parallels the ocean. But there is certain ground wave radar that will parallel the ocean very close to the ocean. And that's what they call over. If you look at what they call over the horizon or beyond the horizon, ground wave radar. That's what our radar. That's ground wave radar, right? And that's what they don't want to be detected by. And I think that's what keep it a certain light.
You said all that before, and I got all that. But I'd still like to know, officially, how high they are claimed to be.
They have to be high enough to be able to sight the stars and not be covered by waves. So whatever that time.
I heard all this. We're just repeating ourselves. No worries. If somebody can find out officially where it's claimed how high a periscope goes above the water, that would be useful information to know. Now, I've got the length of periscopes. They go about 40 feet. But obviously, they need to go longer than you are at depth, right? So that makes sense. But that doesn't tell me how high they go above the water. Just tells me that the maximum depth they can use it at is about 35 feet.
What I'm trying to say, if it's the bubble feature sextant, it won't matter. As long as the sub is horizontally level, they just need to sight the star.
You're not realizing that your point is a red herring to what Nathan wants to know. Because I'm also curious how high they've actually used this thing for.
Yeah, Nathan just wants to know how high up above the water a periscope goes. It's not really about celestial navigation.
I got you.
He just wants to know that.
Well, I'm just trying to keep the argument tight because no matter what the ballers or anti-flat earthers throw at you, you need an angle. And an angle is 2 lines that meet at a common point.
Sorry to interrupt.
I got 60 feet.
1 second. Yeah,
Sorry.
30 to 60 feet is the length of the periscope. Right, same to you in the chat, Phil B. Yes, I found that first search as well. You wiki parroting clown. That's the length of the periscope, but they're doing it from under the water, aren't they? Yeah, so what you're saying is that they do it on the surface and raise it up 60 feet when they're on the bloody surface, you clown? Obviously, it's going to be longer. We need to know the distance above the water they raise it to, not how long the periscope is, you complete idiot.
Well, they travel at either 30 or 60 feet.
Yeah,
most time they
thank
travel
you. Everybody who's about to launch into repeating everything we've just had. Thank you so much for all the information. We don't need to know how high the periscope is, or how long the tube is, or how low they can go, and then just guess that, well, if they can go to 60 feet and they've got a 30 to 60 feet periscope, well, that must mean it's only a couple of inches. We don't know. Just nice to know. That's all.
If only there was a subject matter expert willing to come on and tell us.
Yes, indeed.
Are you at that
point.
slide?
Hold on a
just
second.
below?
That might be something that's worth putting out there. You know. So what is our opponent? He's a fellow YouTuber. As one YouTuber to another, Craig. We're dumb here. We'd need a subject matter expert who's worked on a submarine who would potentially know the answer to this question. How high do they raise the periscope? So we can crap all over your globe with it. Any more for any more?
Well, I'll have to dig out where I got that information, because I did get that information on more than one source. That from memory, it was only like six inches, something like that, from memory.
Okay, cool. Maybe it is. I don't dispute it. But wouldn't you not think that that's quite a useful thing, given that when I've just done several searches, at least a couple of them came back with the curved maths? Well, why? Well, because there's a physical geometric sphere edge obstruction in the way of the periscope looking at anything. And if it's only going 6 inches above the water, that causes a very real problem for their assertions of a physical geometric obstruction that they couldn't see beyond. Now, if they're citing stuff a long distance away, that's going to cause a very real problem, which is why I suspect none of us have got it at our fingertips.
Well, it's already wrong right there. I know this isn't the answer you're looking for, but when you think about them using the formula for 1.2, it doesn't work for anything other than the human eye. If you're looking for something, if you're looking through something that magnifies your field of view, then that formula doesn't work.
Unless they can get it up to 60 feet. Right. Unless you can just go with the narrative that you find. Oh, well, a periscope's 60 feet high. The natural assumption, as is being portrayed by Phil Bell in our chat right now, is that, well, they can get it up to 60 feet then. They just stay a couple of feet below the water and raise the periscope to 60 feet so they can see for miles beyond the geometric horizon. Well, do they? Let's find out. Adam, did you want to have the last word? I know you've got
I just scrolled down that core thing. All I could see was them quoting the curvature maths and distance to the horizon. Stuff. So, but what I did find there was, look, what modern subs have is what's called a photonic mask, and there's one in use. Well, that doesn't look much more than the height of the device above the water, which I suppose
vague.
Brian's point.
Is there a tape measure next to it?
Can I add
Is there something to scale it with? Is there a dollar bill? What's going on? Hold on. That's not very useful, no offence.
Okay, well, I would suggest it's not 60 foot, is my point.
Oh, right. That's very useful.
Okay, so it's just the height of the device, which, by the looks of it, means it needs to be as compact as possible, because that's as discreet as possible.
I got 14 inches.
That's the best I could get.
I've got 12.
Yeah, I don't like to brag, but I'm scratching my knee right now.
Listen, Alexa can't even tell me, and she's been good lately.
Oh, really? Oh, well, if Alexa
Wait a
can't
minute.
tell you, we're all
I've
doomed.
only got 6 inches, and
Look, let's not compare penis sizes right at the end of my bloody live show. So, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who shared the show, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Well, I know that they have ground wave radar that work, like the military test, and I think using ground wave radar from what are known as sonobuoys, and they're 36 inches in length. But when they're floating, they're probably floating at about 18 inches or less. So what they do is they're dropped into the ocean, and they then use ground wave radar across the ocean.
Right.
And they'll do this close to a fleet, or they'll do it in those kind of situations, or use them in that way, so they can know where other fleets are and different things like that. But the buoys themselves are 36 inches long, so when they're floating, they might only be half that. So you're talking ground wave radar that could be only a foot above the ocean.
Depending on how the ocean is above, they only need to stick above the water until they can sight the stars with the mirror that swivels. That's it.
Is the show over? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's the after show.
Oh, sorry. Because I didn't see you, Nathan. I thought you were leaving. Sorry. But no. The sonar boys, I know that the ground wave radar works close to the water. So whatever level that works at, the periscope would probably have to stay between that and the surface of the water, because you don't want to get caught by ground wave radar.
Wait, can we just take a moment to reflect on the utter folly of Professor Phil Bell, who I believe is actually a fake account, describing submarines as having periscopes extended above the surface of the water at 2/3 of the height of a average city building?
Yeah, he's not thinking things out, is he?
Yeah, it's literally insane.
Just parroting off the first thing he came across on Google.
Who allegedly... Go ahead.
It's just parroting off the first thing he found on Google. The very top search said that. I only know that because I did it and went, well, what's the next one? What's the next one? By about half a dozen, I got an idea of, hang on, this is clearly related, because it's not telling me, and I've typed it in 3 different search methods, and what it is telling me is, well, you've got to account for Earth curve. You're like, wow, this is seriously related to what we cover then. This is definitely of interest. And then over and over again, Phil Bell from the chat saying, just look it up, it's 60 feet. Just look it up, just look it up. You're like, yeah, I did. And I got that result too. But that tells me how long the device is. It doesn't tell me how long above the water it is, or how high, I should say.
Right, but just imagine, the first thing the height of a sail on a sailboat is like 30 to 40 feet. So he's alleging that a periscope of a submarine is extended above the surface of the water, the same height of the sail of a sailboat, which would render the purpose of the device totally null, because you could just have the submarine above the water like 10 feet and it would be less visible.
Yeah, but if he was here, I'd do the same that I did to my panel, which is basically go, citation, please.
Well, fair enough, but I'm just saying, using a little bit of common sense, has anyone here ever even seen it alleged in a movie or a film reel of the news that there's a submarine with a 60-foot protuberance above the surface of the water? I mean, that's just insane.
Only when they want to hang their dirty laundry to dry.
Yeah, it's like Neil said, it's Hanna-Barbera cartoon stuff.
There's a sensible submission online that says it's classified information, and that's why it's really a shot in the dark with everything. But there's also a few that say it's an average of like 4 feet. And then another thing to think about, since we're talking about how absurd this submarine stuff is, think about sonar on a sphere, right? So the opposition or the enemy could literally just hide behind the curvature of the Earth, and the sonar wouldn't be able to detect it until it was right up underneath the other submarine. So it seems like it would just render it kind of pointless at that.
I hope this goes somewhere. I hope we get some more information on it. I really do.
Maybe QE knows. He was a cook in the military.
I'm just looking it up. US Navy at the moment currently suggests 30 foot with a big gay pride flag on the top. But other than that, I can't see anything. It's strange by its absence, isn't it? To pretend.
That just woke people up, Adam.
Sorry.
Listen, I don't like that God's rainbow has been hijacked by certain people.
They used to use a 6-coloured rainbow. I don't know how many's there now. As opposed to a 7, I think. They weren't hijacked, was my point.
But I'm not losing what I was going to say now. The periscope, I'm wasting my time. It's completely gone. I'm only making it up, whatever I'm going to say.
It's just logic, isn't it? It's just bloody logic, really. That was the point of my part. You know what I mean? If you're going to have a stealthy thing, you want it as least as possible. That's why I find it interesting by the absence of no statements and just quoting of curvature formulas, because that's the reality. The massive implications that basically periscopes are useless.
That was what I wanted to speak about. Yeah, when I looked into it and got the information I got, it was a couple of years ago. So maybe that information now is not so readily available. Because I did get that information. I don't remember it being a huge, lengthy process. I had to look at a few different places, but I don't remember it being half an hour to an hour. Like, I remember finding it, reasonably quick.
Oh, well, that's because Flat Earth has now dominated, and they're getting a little worried. So they got to change meanings and definitions, and they got to hide information, make it a sphere,
Very
Nathan,
true, because... Go on.
No, Nathan, do you want to go to that short present? It was the one I was going to do in the pre-show. You said to save it.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Yes.
It's just before your link that you posted for the show.
Starting with the sun with the spiky stuff coming.
No, Flat Earth. It should be go back until you see Flat Earth theory.
I've been waiting for this.
Okay. I think I'm on the right one.
Yeah, it says Flat Earth 30 on the top, and it shows disk Earth.
Flat Earth 30.
Flat Earth theory. It's the slides just above your link for the show this morning.
How many?
4, 5 at the most, I think.
5. So I've got the guy with the sextant, the old black and white, old-timey picture.
No, go back. Before you posted your link for the show.
Oh, before the link.
Remember, it was in the pre-show?
Yeah, it doesn't appear like that when I've got the images up. I can't.
I got you.
Okay, Flat Earth theory. Got it up. Yeah. Go
Okay. This is funny. Often described as the ultimate conspiracy theory, a group of people argues that the Earth's shape is flat. Their arguments are often pretty simplistic, such as walking on Earth feels flat. Any scientific evidence is fabricated, orchestrated by NASA and or the government agencies. The theory states that Earth is a disk with the Arctic Circle in the center and Antarctica, a 150-foot tall wall of ice around the rim. Scientists from NASA are supposedly guarding this wall. Next one. There are many other theories within this one trying to explain gravity or the movements of the sun and moon. It is quite extraordinary that some people believe this. However, there is one thing to keep in mind. Many, if not most, flat earthers are merely lying about their beliefs simply out of fun, profit, or general disinformation. Next slide. Though the number of flat eartheners the spelling is great, is small. Their overall existence for some people is enough to deter their belief upon the shape of the Earth. And then the sources, the next slide, was Wikipedia, NASA, and Universe Today. And I posted the link to the whole thing. I mean, do they not understand how we have these concise arguments and that they have to say it's the first walking on Earth feels flat? Is that how we argue?
Yo, that whole thing pisses me off. Where's the elevation angle? Where's the black swan? Where's anything we argue about right here? Where is that?
Well, the sheep don't need that. The sheep will just read this or watch this, and then when we talk to them, they say, "Oh, we know about you guys."
That article falls apart though when somebody has the flat out spoken a bit with them by their brother, or sister, a parent, a sibling, a child, a cousin, an aunt, an uncle, because then it's somebody, a friend of the family, because then it's somebody who you've known for years, maybe your whole life, and now that person is saying to you the Earth is not what we're told, it's not a globe, it's flat. Then do you turn around and call that person a liar, someone pushing disinformation, someone who's just out to cause problems for fun? Do you know what I mean? It falls apart then. You know, it might support what they wanted to support when you're dealing with strangers. When someone's dealing with strangers or people on the internet they don't know, or YouTube videos that something like that, they could use it in that way. But they couldn't use it when it's somebody who's close to you.
And what about profit? I mean, it's the other side that are really profiting. They make all the money.
Yeah, if it was profitable, there'd be a lot more people doing it. Do you know what I mean?
I knew Nathan was a millionaire.
Nathan, are you going to go on the show tonight with Dirth?
No, he just wants to have a chat with me, and him and I are both just busy and keep missing each other. So I was trying to have a chat with him over the weekend, and it just didn't happen for whatever reason. So as it stands, no.
Okay, so there's nothing going to be aired tonight.
No, not as far as I'm aware.
Okay. So does that mean RV is next on the list to hear these good arguments we have?
I hope so. He certainly suggested it to me last time we spoke.
It's game over.
Slow burns.
Discord is quiet. I wonder who's in Discord. Anyone see it?
Come on, somebody wants to tell us how we all live on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum. Come on.
Crash.
Sorry, I work at the warehouse.
No, just perfect timing. Somebody wants to tell us we live in a magical spinning water ball.
You find them in chat.
Zatinko wants to tell us, but I don't think Zatinko or Zatencio, whatever, is going to come on VC.
What does he want to tell us? What's he chatting about?
And is he in VC?
Oh,
if not, give up straight away.
He's. I don't think he is. But he's in chat. He's talking about the race on the ocean, supposedly around the world, where they actually go up and down the coastlines, not around.
Yeah. That's the French race that is done each year.
Right, but they go up and down the coastline, and they don't even do a full circumnavigation around. They only go up a couple of coastlines, and that's it. That's the end of the race.
Yeah, you just have to follow the map. They're going all around the different continents. I've seen it. I followed their track. They've got GPS and everything working so they know where they're at because they're near the coastlines, and it's already mapped out. It's the same course each year.
Yeah, they're just using mostly longitudinal distances. What they would claim is that they're using great circle routes, which are just straight lines on a map, and they're sticking close to the shore because they will get GPS there. You go out far enough. If your boat is not big enough, you won't be getting GPS. More than likely.
This Atencio guy at 8 minutes past the hour posted a citation referring to celestial navigation that he believed debunked our position, which, I began to read and immediately discovered that the author of the citation described that mariners know their so-called latitude based on an angle measurement, which is calibrated from 0 degrees at the equator to Polaris to an increasing number of degrees, as you get closer to Polaris, assuming 90 if you get to the North Pole. And
so angle plus equatorial plane. So that's flat Earth elevation angle measurements off a flat Earth celestial plane-based measurement. That's what they're doing. That's what he's describing.
That's correct.
Yeah, and instead of addressing that is in fact what his citation claimed, he decided to throw up a big smoke bomb dust cloud with this sailboat, stunt. And I think he should come into VC and defend his citation.
The minute he said angle, he lost.
Indeed.
Quick, my citation debunked my own point. Quick, let's talk about sailboats.
That happens a lot,
I know.
Who's the famous one? Is it Unorthodox? Who came in with those? Timmy Clown.
What you mean?
I just want.
Go on, Brian.
I was going to say it about GPS. The claim of GPS and something meaning the sky and blah, blah, blah. If you look into how it actually works, GPS, they use trilateration, not triangulation, right? But that's only because the signal is going from something to the person with the receiver. It's not the person with the receiver sending out, doing like you do with a sextant. So it's kind of opposite, where it goes to the claim is it comes from somewhere. The signal, sorry, not the claim that the signal comes from somewhere to the receiver, which is what the person has. But what people have to understand about GPS, the claim that there's things in the sky, regardless of what they are, whether they be balloons, whether they be floaty things, I don't know what the hell, whether it just be the stars. The point is that if you're claiming something's in the sky, right, and that is being used to find your location, then if you look into it, they must use a GP position. So it requires a horizontal plane. It's the same exact thing as celestial navigation. All satellites would require a GP position to know the distance between where they are and where you are.
They would have to.
Yeah, I mean, I know a bit more about it than that. I'm just keeping it really dumbed down. But that's the basics of GPS. They use triangles. If you look at what they actually do, they use triangles and they use circles of equal altitude. It doesn't happen from the observer. It's a signal to the receiver the observer has, or not the observer, but the person on the boat or whatever, the person wherever they are. It's a signal to them. So they're using circles of equal altitude and triangles.
It's the same principle, but instead of using angles, it's distances or milliseconds of the return, isn't it? So you end up drawing your circles from the towers, and because you know the time and the distance, you can draw the circles on the towers and give via trilateration your position, as far as I understand it, Brian.
Yeah, but you know the hypotenuse, right? Because that's what they're like. Their claim is it's an angle. Let's say a depression angle to, let's say you have 3 satellites or 4 satellites, and you're in a boat, you have a receiver, and you get these depression angles from these supposedly 4 satellites to you. But how did they know the distance from them to you? right? Besides the fact of the claim of, because the calculation, the two-way speed light calculation, right? Let's just say then they find out their distance, the distance, let's say, from the satellite to the person in the boat. Brilliant. What does that show them on land? Nothing. They have to then use the GP position below them. They would have no choice, because then they got to convert it into a straight horizontal distance for the person in the boat to know exactly where they are. Because knowing, because like even the claim of geostationary satellites, they require a GP, their own GP. They need that. For that whole process to work, they require a GP, which means they require a horizontal plane.
Yeah, your posts, your land-based towers, they're your stars. And instead of getting angles to them, we calculate ping on it, and that's what draws your circles of equal altitude. But all of this is using right-angled triangles still.
Yeah. The point I'm making, yeah, exactly, Adam. They're using right-angled triangles. The point I'm making is they have to use GP positions when they are doing, whether they claim that it's a satellite or whether it's a star, they're using a GP position, which means they're using a right-angled triangle, which means they require flat Earth to work. I know a bit more, I've looked into it a bit more than I'm saying, but it requires a flat Earth to work. Even within their own claim of geocentric satellites, it requires a flat Earth. And what's a geocentric satellite? You know what I mean?
I thought I described it earlier. It's a land-based tower.
Yeah.
Mountain.
I take it Discord's going to stay quiet today?
Maybe. No pressure.
No, but don't we have some people trying to rile them up to come on the show? Any hope?
I don't know if there's much hope, but it's going pretty wild in the chat in the sense that, people are claiming that sextant measurements are purely construed based on the line of sight to the horizon and the line of sight to the celestial object. And they seem to have completely ignored the height of eye correction aspect of the whole calculation. And so for all the people in chat, I think it's worth listening once again that merely taking a line of sight to the horizon means nothing because the GP of the star is what tells you your distance, assuming you have a couple of other circles of equal altitude. But the GP is measured and noted in the almanac as the position wherein the star is literally, perfectly above your head. And that has to form a 90-degree angle to you as the observer. So you have to adjust your angle to knock yourself down to sea level to make it coplanar such that you can actually do trigonometry.
I find it very interesting that these people haven't followed the methodology when you do not have the ability to shoot the natural horizon. Nathan, can you go to the slide in Master V I just posted, please?
While Nathan's pulling those up just to address Discord, this is what we pointed out from the start. They're going to focus on this obtaining the angle and try and argue tangents, etc., etc. Hence alluding to it, the full process, this return journey, where this angle marks the GP of the star to bring it back across the flat plane that you've measured the angle from to give you the distance, to give you your circles of equal altitude to get your fix. This is what they don't want to focus on, because just as much the return journey has to occur across a flat plane.
Got your slide up if you want to go through it now.
Yeah, I'm going to post one more too, just so I can augment this one. So let me do that one right now as well. But you can see this is the celestial sphere, the one right here. And Let me send it. And I'm going to follow up with the next one once it's there. So here we go. You've got the celestial sphere, and you got the plane of the horizon all the way to the celestial sphere. There's your angle, a flat plane. It's not being done from the curved surface at all, ever. It can't, because the nautical almanacs take you to the center where you can actually say you're doing it from this flat disk. In reality, because we do live on a flat plane, we are doing it on a flat plane originally, but the globers and the people who are trying to fool you are saying, well, you're on the curved surface, but all the measurements is from the center of the luminary to the center of the Earth, where there's this equatorial plane. So all the measurements are derived from here. And what do you see here? You see a plane of the horizon. This is where you can achieve an angle. You need a plane. You can't get this plane on the curved surface. The curve you see in this picture is not the Earth. The curve you see in this picture is a celestial sphere, which is imaginary. Supposed to be infinite distance, where the stars are placed on the inside curved part of it. That dot in the middle, that's supposed to be the Earth, that little black dot. But then you're not doing it from the surface. You're going to the center of the Earth, which matches the equatorial plane, and the plane of the horizon match up to make this disk. Now, if you go to the next slide, you can see it in this army image that an airplane needs a plane, the ship needs a plane, and the Earth measurements come from the center, which I just showed you was a plane. Nothing ever works from a curved surface in celestial navigation, ever.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Shout out to Dingleberry Earth. Shout out Retractor.
How come they can't see that they're taking it from the center of the Earth? How come they can't put that together, that it's actually the surface? I'm having a hard time connecting that, why they're not seeing this.
What's even worse, Neil, is they don't realize once you do all the corrections to get true altitude, the correct angle, you minus it from 90. How can you minus anything from 90 if the surface is curved?
You can't. And why ain't they seeing that?
It doesn't matter. They're dingbats. It's over. These people are idiots.
Neil, if it makes it feel any better, I had a guy tell me only last night that.
You mean dingleberry dingbats? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I had a guy tell me only yesterday that you can do angular size measurements of real objects using pixels. That's what we're dealing with. Pixels.
We should call this show.
Share my screen for a second. I was just the point I made earlier, just to reiterate. The return journey is.
Hold on, you're not sharing. Oh yeah, you are. Sorry.
The return journey is really important from your GPs to help you locate. Oh, it's faded off. But you can see here, if you're drawing your circles of equal altitude, if you're working with a ball instead of flat maps, you get what's coined the tears of a baller, isn't it? Unfortunately, and it just shows you that it doesn't work. The process, as you see here, circles of equal altitude doesn't work. It's all done on a flat map, a flat plane first. You can then stick it on a ball, is what they do. But all the calculations and the measurements are done on a flat plane. Hence why you end up with the tears of a baller. Although,
very good. That's Rob Durham, right?
Yeah. Rob kindly.
Man, this is
I actually.
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, I was going to say that I actually saw something. I was looking into the Universal Transverse Mercator, and there was an admittance I saw online where they say when you draw a circle on the Universal Transverse Mercator, that it becomes like a teardrop or an oval when it's put back onto a globe. So they actually admit that. I can't remember where I saw it, what video it was, but I saw it. I meant to share it and I forgot it. But they actually admit that, yeah, it becomes an oval on the globe. That it doesn't stay as a circle.
Nathan, I posted a Wikipedia link. If you click on it, there's a GIF. Can we all watch this GIF and give our opines?
Give me a second. I have to come out of the pictures for you to get it up. Is it Master B? Equatorial coordinate system, right?
Yeah. Yes. And as soon as you open it up, you'll see a GIF. Just be patient. It'll start playing.
Got it if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, can you play it?
Adam's
'Cause it doesn't sit nicely on my screen.
How about?
Yeah, just watch it. Let it go through a couple of times.
Okay, I've got Adam's screen up now.
Yeah, just let it go through again once more.
Okay, you're going to follow it up with a...
Well, it's going right now. This is the beginning. So you see the center of the Earth all the way to the celestial sphere. That's one equatorial plane of the Earth matching the equatorial plane of the celestial sphere. Then they got the supposed 23 point whatever tilt. Then they're showing you the rest of their little game here. But there's more coming on this. I remember telling you over a year ago, there's something about the horizontal coordinate system, ALT-AS, versus the equatorial coordinate system, which is the sky map itself. You're not observing from the Earth, but you're actually on the sky map. And that's the right ascension declination. And I've been researching it ever since, and I'm going to spend some time with Adam because there's some things I'm finding out. They're glorious because they just keep contradicting themselves. Because, it's part of the trick, obviously. To take that equatorial plane where all the measurements of the sextant have to be derived from, which is a plane, not the surface where it's curved, where the sextant actually is. So they're not doing it on the curved surface. They're doing it on the flat Earth and then saying it's done from the center. But it's not done from the center. It's done from the surface. Just a little teaser.
Today's thumbnail. Yes, Nathan, we're all really keen. Oh, well, I'll put it up then.
Oh, it's arrived now.
Yeah, it just came out. That's funny. I'm an expert.
I is expert.
I is expert.
That's right.
We're dealing with some crazy people out there. I don't even know why we give them any attention.
That periscope only looks about 6 inches above that.
I knew you were going to say that. I was waiting for that. That's why I put it up.
Maybe
that to me,
maybe a bit bigger.
That's got to be about a foot, right? That cartoon.
I'm using Craig's head to scale it.
Based on Craig's head, it's only 2 inches.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a super slow after show, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They're tired.
Sorry.
The ballers are tired, Nathan. They can't get around this angle.
No, it's victory time.
Go win the shit out of the thing. I can still do it.
Hey, can I ask Adam a question?
Yeah, go ahead, if he's willing to answer.
All right, mate.
So as our resident maths person, I've been arguing with people in Discord and, also just pondering it myself. And to me, it seems foolish to claim that a line can be curved. Now, I've heard it asserted that you can have a curved line, but as far as I understand, a line is just an extension of a line segment, which is the shortest distance between 2 points. And so it occurs to me that the idea of a curved baseline is itself intrinsic folly, because baseline implies line, and lines aren't curved.
I looked this up because we had this conversation before last week. I think the correct response is, within colloquial terms, you want to differentiate, and if you do, then the differentiation applies. But in terms of grammar solely within geometry, then a line is a straight line between 2 points. That's how geometry defines a line.
Okay, well, based on that, Adam, I'm going to apologise because I disagreed with him and you're agreeing with him. So I take it back and I apologise. I was wrong.
Within geometry?
Yeah, well, that's what... I can't get around and use that to weasel out. We are being specific about what we're talking about here, and we're definitely talking geometry. So I've got to take it and say, yeah, I was wrong. You were right.
Well, I'm not looking for personal glory here. It's just like, to me, it adds a whole nother level of fundamental.
Take it.
Hey, but that's the difference. They would never show. Hold on, that's the difference. See, a baller or anti-flat earther would never show humility.
Well, if you go to Discord chat right now, you'll have Akuma Virus literally arguing that lines can be curved right now, which is the only reason I brought it up again.
Yeah, still flat.
I mean, these people are just literally crazy. They're crazy. I think they're literally insane.
Yeah.
I did ask him.
You know what? Virus is looking for attention.
I did
ask him for an experiment.
And?
Well, that has an independent variable. And he's like, well, I do math, not science. So then what the hell are you doing here talking about science with the science room?
No, but I guess my point was to him just 90 seconds ago that he doesn't do math either, because he doesn't know what a line is. And if you don't know what a line is, there's not really a ton of math you can do besides arithmetic and algebra.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out.
He thinks he's a mathematician.
Oh, well, there seems to be a lot of confusion about basic geometry. Some people think lines can only be straight. So,
No, that's the case.
I think the term you're looking for, Neil, is math person.
He thinks he's a mathematician.
Nathan, can you go to mastery? I got 2 slides up. One is on angles. Well, they're both on angles, actually. I want Adam and the caller to get involved in this one with me.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Are you guys saying a coon?
Right angle, obtuse angle, straight angle. Yeah, got it. It's up.
Okay. Adam and the caller, I can't remember the caller's channel name, but since they're talking about lines and stuff. So we know in celestial navigation it's a right angle, and there are 2 lines there perpendicular, creating a 90. And you can see what an acute angle is. That could exist within a right angle, but an obtuse angle can't. A straight angle isn't it, and the reflex angle isn't, would not apply. So next slide is showing how sextant works. You take a 55-degree elevation angle, and you have a baseline and the vertex, and you minus it from 90. And the difference is your co-altitude, your zenith distance. So this is how it works. So the minute you see 90 in celestial navigation, Adam and the caller, what does that baseline have to be if it's a 90?
It has to be a line, which means it has to be straight.
Correct. So it's the minute you... This is nauseating. 90 kills them right away because you got to minus everything from 90. You know, all the altitude corrections is to get the true altitude, and then you minus it from 90. A presupposition that the Earth is flat.
Not a presupposition, it's a prerequisite.
Yes, even better. Why didn't they say
A
minus it
necessary
from...
antecedent, even.
Correct, a necessary antecedent, that's correct.
Yeah, they don't say minus it from a reflex angle. They don't say minus it from an obtuse angle. They say minus it from a right angle, a 90. That's why it's over with 90. A triangle kills them.
Any angle kills them. Any angle kills them.
Any angle kills them.
The moment they say angle now, it's like one of those trigger words. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, yeah, where are you going to get that?
They can't get it off their Earth.
Why do you think, Neil, they go to the... Hang on. Neil, why do you think they need to go to the center to get the equatorial plane and say it's deriving from there?
Because their Earth is curved on the surface. They can't get what they need. They have to cut the Earth in half and go somewhere flat.
So it's a protractor, and the surface that's curved is what they think they're living on, that curved protractor surface, not the base.
That's correct.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.